other questions there I'm going to leave till the end. This is the stuff we've spoken about today, that benefit detriment requirement and the bargain requirement. Most of the things on this slide we're going to be looking at next week. So we'll get into the details of each of them when we've got 3 full hours to go. So I'm heading into 8 o'clock now. We've only taken one 5-minute break, so we've got plenty of time for Q&A this time. So let me turn off the slide pack, let you see my face again, and we'll work through some of these questions and anything else that you have. I can see there's still 31 of you here, so you're clearly stayers, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It's I really want to thank you for your willingness to come on this scary, ridiculous ride with me. Oh, I had my video on the whole time before. I hope I didn't pick my nose or anything. But I really shouldn't have said that out loud. Now you'll be looking. Okay, got a couple of questions coming through on the Q&A. Let me bring them up here. I'll just have a look on the ones that were in writing first, because I feel like I haven't done a very good job of those. So one of the questions is, what if the promise itself is actually a benefit to the promisee? For example, if I tell my 15-year-old that he does well in year 11, I'll buy him a car. Couple of different issues there. One is there are going to be other reasons why it might be difficult to make that kind of promise. Because it's a family social relationship, and the question of intention will sort of sit over that. So let's leave that question mark. And if you do well is the outcome. What that really means is if you work hard this year. So provided there's sufficient certainty as to what that means. So for example, if the criteria was that you swear off social media and only and study for at least 2 hours a night, and you can document that, I will buy you a car. The fact that he gets a benefit out of it is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, think about it from the point of view of, theoretically at least, you've entered into a contract with the university, and it's often easy to think, at the end of this, I will get a law degree. Actually, the contract, and a law degree means you can go and practice law, subject to a few other things that have to happen first, but actually what the contract is we will provide you with teaching, access, and opportunities to do assessment, and we will honestly review your assessments and say to the world that you did or you did not meet the criteria. So there is a benefit for you in doing it, but it doesn't, at the end of the day, there's a detriment as well. You have to forego what you otherwise would be doing right now. Again, I hope that answers the question. I'm just having a quick look up here. Okay, I'm not seeing any other question marks. Doesn't mean that I didn't. Oh, and now the hands have been lowered. Any other questions, concerns, frustrations, compliments? Anything else that you would like to say, do, ask about? I've noticed there are a couple of questions about where slides are at. Because we're moving from a different flow of the topics, I'm sort of reworking slides. So I replaced the slide packs earlier this afternoon. I did send out an announcement to both the face-to-face and the OUA groups explaining that. Okay, and then I think I've answered that question as well, which is, okay, actually the question was an anonymous question. Can you focus a bit more on explaining the side of which we are approaching the subject matter? Is it the approach coming from the promisor side or the promisee? I did mention that question earlier. Is that person happy, satisfied that the answer has been given? If not, could you, or any of you, either raise your hand again or contact me separately. Okay, in the absence of any more questions, I'm pretty happy to finish up now. We had a few technical glitches. I'm going to send you a link to a little quick and dirty survey. I'll see if I can find it right now to ask you to give me some feedback that will help me make this work better. Clearly, not everything went perfectly, and I really appreciate your patience with me. There are a lot of moving parts here. So it's been quite difficult for me, and I've just seen somebody has got a question for me, which is awesome. So any constructive feedback that you can give, any ideas you have about making this better, I would really appreciate. So the next question I have is in regards to the consideration. In regards to consideration must move to the promisee, there's an example in the textbook. A undertakes a contractual obligation to B in return for the benefit conferred by B onto C. So they use the example of A paying B to find C's dog. Isn't consideration also moving from A? So, and there's a comment underneath saying that example wasn't entirely clear. By the way, I'm assuming that you can't see questions that are raised, but if you can, please let me know. I'm not really sure what you can see or can't see. I'm assuming you can. Let's use that example. I think I start off with this idea. I don't know why I want my lawn mowed. Let's say I've need my handyman work done, handy person work done. So in some vain effort to support those of us who are working so hard to try and readjust everything in this COVID-19 environment, the university has decided that it'll support adjunct lecturers like me by arranging to get handy person work done. The strategy might be, mind you, I'm just making this up. It does sound like it'd be quite nice. The strategy is that there'll be all these students who are unemployed or would otherwise be doing casual waiting and hospitality work who haven't got jobs at the moment. So it might be that what the university A does is promise that students will come and do handyman chores for me. So A here, the university, will take on a contractual obligation to the student, to me, in return for a benefit. Oh, sorry, they've got A, B and C. It's just made it even more confusing to me. A contractual obligation to the student in return for a benefit that is conferred to C, as in the teacher. So they take on an obligation to pay you as employees, and the benefit would be to me. The consideration is moving from A to pay the student, yet the benefit of the promise is coming to me as C, as the person who's getting handiwork done in my house. Now that means I would not be able to sue the student who did a bad job. Chances are, depending on how it worked, I would have a separate contract with the university and I could sue them for shoddy workmanship. But the university, if it chose to, could take some contractual consequence from the student. Have I just made that worse? I have a feeling I just made that worse. I have another question here about the Chai case. Oh, is that the Tai Chi case? Is it because Beaton, I'm just guessing here, is it because Beaton did not offer McDivitt something back? If Beaton offered a lifetime of Tai Chi classes, because that's what it was, to McDivitt for the land, would that have been sufficient consideration? It's as much about timing. So what the arrangement was is you come on and live on the land, and when I can transfer it to you I will, and you can do this permaculture. But there was no promise to do the permaculture, and there was no promise for the other improvements. So they were done in reliance on the understanding that they'd ultimately get to own the land. But there was no exchange of promises, no bargain made at the time. So the things were done subsequently because the promise had been made. Does that answer your questions? It is much harder to do this without body language. Okay, well, on that note, I might close this all down. Thanks to all of you who've hung around, and I can see a few people have dropped off now. Do let me know what you think. I will, in Canvas, in the section where the recordings will ultimately go, so the topic 5 slides and recordings, there's a link there to a quick survey to ask you to anonymously give me some feedback. These will get better as we get more used to doing them, but I really am asking you for help to work out the best way to do it. Take care. Hope life isn't too boring, and I'll look forward to seeing you all sometime very soon.